From freaky mannequins and human remains to mummified frogs and human brains, these are 11 of the creepiest things found in abandoned buildings. Number 11. Hanging mannequin. Even if you have never considered schools to be creepy places filled with resigned, uninterested teachers and classmates, struggle to survive and thrive in the jungle of endless dominance hierarchies of their peers, I'm willing to bet you are going to find this particular abandoned school and what was found inside it hair-raising. You might expect broken desks, decaying chairs, cracked ceilings and walls, broken windows, scattered yellow papers, and a couple remnants of textbooks. This school was, however, in addition to everything aforementioned, hiding a terrifying object. A fully clothed mannequin left hanging from the ceiling with a ladder on the ground beneath it. It's easy to imagine such a scenario in a horror movie where the mannequin suddenly comes back to life and becomes a killing machine. But this real-life find is as mysterious and interesting as it is unsettling. Number 10. Limbless porcelain dolls and chicken remains on crosses. Nacho Labrador is an urban explorer, unafraid to venture into scary territories. He was the person who discovered this abandoned doll factory in an undisclosed location somewhere in Spain. What is really disturbing is what he found inside the corroding building: scattered limbless dolls, some of which had shattered faces, making for an upsetting viewing. Sculptor Roman Ingles from Valencia, Spain, is thought to have designed these beyond creepy dolls, and their detached, pudgy hands pointed forward into the air as if they're reaching for help. The matte finish over the bisque lends the dolls an extra layer of creepiness with an almost lifelike appearance. The rotting doll factory itself, suddenly abandoned, is stacked with boxes full of these horror movie material dolls. Porcelain dolls were mostly manufactured in Germany and Spain in the 19th century, and there does appear to be a similarity with these Spanish ones. They have been part of many cultures and are considered collectibles nowadays. There was, allegedly, another urban explorer who proclaimed that the factory might be cursed. He claims to have found ritualistic remains of chickens strung up on crosses. Okay, yeah, this building is definitely haunted. Number 9. Skeletons of mythical creatures. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear of an abandoned laboratory? Scary human remains, rusty equipment, terrifying past with a dark history of horrible experimentation on humans and animals as a result of a whim of some brilliant mad scientist? Probably, but this one is not quite that. 14 years ago, a secret lab was found in London underneath an abandoned orphanage that just quadrupled the creep factor. What was found inside is truly unsettling and extremely interesting. Apparently, the lab contained remnants of ancient mythical creatures that were thought to have only lived in fairy tales. An 18th century crypto-naturalist, fringe zoologist, and xenoarchaeologist, quite the title, Thomas Theodore Merlin had been collecting the remains of these ancient creatures that challenged the entire previous understanding of evolution of life on our planet, if they ever belonged to this planet, that is. What makes this entire story even more disturbing is the fact that this secret lab was discovered underneath an orphanage. If a Hollywood producer wanted to create a perfect horror mystery movie, this would be the inspiration for it. Number 8. Mummified frog. An urbex fanatic from Ontario had decided one day, back in 2018, to explore an abandoned high school in northern Ontario with his friends. He was convinced that the exploring part would be more about innocent fun than chills down his spine. But as it turns out, the latter happened. As this adventurous guy was entering the school, which had previously been explicably abandoned and ransacked, even though it had previously been in pristine condition, he noticed something that intrigued him: a science lab. When he approached it, what he discovered shocked and traumatized him for life. He found an incredibly well-preserved, mummified body of a frog that was most likely used for science class experiments just in front of a cabinet on the ground. After this shocking discovery, the brave urban explorer decided to investigate further and found many different parts and oddities in the lockers that seemed as if they were designed for experimentation on frogs like this one. The purpose of these potential experiments is currently unknown, but what is really disturbing is that Ontario seems to be the place where many of these creepy places are located. Their exact locations cannot be uncovered, But if you want to visit Ontario and go on an urban exploring expedition on your own or with friends, consider yourself warned. Number 7, purple nightgown. Berlin has seen its fair share of dark during its history, but this accidental discovery is one of the most disturbing images you will ever see. As you travel through southwest of Berlin, you might spot an abandoned hospital. This hospital, named Billitz Hellstatten, was initially constructed and equipped to serve as a tuberculosis sanatorium, but what ended up happening was that it was remodeled to serve as a military hospital. This is where an incredibly frightening photo was taken, in which there is a mysterious purple nightgown with shoes right beneath it. What does this nightgown represent? Who wore it, and for what purpose? One of the most disturbing parts of this story is the fact that this is the very hospital where Hitler had recovered being wounded in World War I, and where Nazi soldiers were able to get treatment during World War II. And the history of this place gets even darker, believe it or not. Apparently, several murder incidents happened during the time the hospital was open, which begs the question, how exactly does this infamous nightgown fit in the history of evil, mayhem, and murder? If any of you, brave dear viewers, knows the answer to this million-dollar question, please let me know in the comment section below. But for all of the sensitive souls out there, I strongly urge you to never think about visiting this horrific place. Some questions are better left unanswered, and some mysteries unsolved. Number 6, restroom of an abandoned school. Disturbing stories of abandoned schools are a horror movie and book trope for a darn good reason. This particular image of a restroom taken in Georgia is so profoundly unnerving exactly because it plays on all of our childhood-related fears. The decaying restroom walls, rusting toilet seats with metallic pipes and filthy floor add up to a profoundly haunting experience. Well, haunting and haunted looks like it might be both. What's even more terrifying, perhaps, is the thought that restrooms from our own schools might look like this one day. Why? Any apocalyptic scenario would do. A new world war, a nuclear disaster, a global pandemic? Who knows? Number 5, a jar full of dentures and human specimens. This deeply unsettling story took place in, again, Ontario, sometime in 2016. Our friendly urban explorer, who presented us with a mummified body of a frog in an abandoned school earlier on this list, was walking the dark, empty streets of Ontario when he suddenly stumbled upon something that looked like an abandoned hospital. And it actually was an abandoned hospital. After some deliberation, deciding to conquer his fears and face the possibly scary stuff that he could find inside, he entered the hospital and started investigating the possible secrets it was hiding. Although he was aware of the fact that the hospital was already emptied out since the hospital had been abandoned and closed, he had an intense hunch there was something more happening here than what was meeting the eye, at least at first glance. He walked to the autopsy room, and there he found a fridge. After a moment of hesitance, the brave explorer decided to open the fridge, and what he found there scarred him for the rest of his life. He stumbled across multiple jars filled with all kinds of human organs. The jars themselves were labeled with the names of the organs that were inside of them: liver, stomach contents, kidney, and others. At that point, I think it's time to run. However, the brave amateur investigator didn't stop there. He later went on to an abandoned dentist office and came across a remarkably unsettling sight: a jar filled with human teeth. He wasn't exactly sure whether those teeth were actually real human teeth or prosthetic dentures, but either way, this was a shocking and traumatic event he is highly unlikely to never forget. This guy is like the Columbus of abandoned buildings. Like, he's really got a knack for finding weird things. Number 4, pentagram made out of fire extinguishers. On a warm August day in 2009, a group of urban explorers decided to get out of their comfort zones and visit an abandoned hospital called West Park Hospital in Epsom, Surrey, England. This hospital belonged to a cluster of hospitals that served the purpose of treating the mentally ill individuals. This building had allegedly had a capacity to treat about 2,000 patients at a time. But, as we all know, the psychologically disturbed people were treated less than optimally in the past. They found many corroding walls, some of which were spray painted with smiling clown faces, and many other disturbing images. But what came as a real shock to the system was a room where they uncovered a collection of fire extinguishers assembled in a pentagram shape. Run, run, run. They were deeply unsettled by this sight and decided to share the photo in question with the world. The whole thing is still shrouded in mystery and not even close to being properly deciphered. Why were they arranged in the mysterious pentagram shape? Could this be related to some sort of ritualistic occult activity? Or could it be that some other urbex fanatics planted it there to mess with others who would come after them? It's hard to know, but if you have any idea as to what all of this might mean, share your thoughts with me in the comment section below. Number 3. Baby beds in Pripyat. The Chernobyl disaster was one of the most disturbing events in history. It happened in 1986 and was caused by the number 4 reactor of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. It's estimated that it had directly caused less than 100 deaths, with varying estimates of deaths from radiation in the following decades. This catastrophe, which is considered one of the worst in human history, happened near the city of Pripyat, at the north of the Ukrainian SSR. It is exactly in Pripyat where something else was found which caused the disturbance across the internet sphere. Tens of thousands of people had to be evacuated from the city, and it essentially became a ghost town. However, many urban explorers are interested in this city and all of its ghastly history, which motivates many of them to visit and photograph the interesting, albeit disturbing sights there. One such urban explorer decided to visit a place where he found several baby beds, some of which were broken, but some were intact, and some of those even had baby bottles still inside of them. This harrowing image captures the essence of the entire Chernobyl disaster. How many children have died in its wake and aftermath? What happened to those children who were once occupying those beds? Number 2, a bathtub full of human brains. Back in 2009, somewhere in the southern part of the US, a group of brave urban explorers decided to check out an abandoned hospital on an undisclosed location. Abandoned hospitals equals nightmares, period. They were on a quest for adventure, and adventure did they find, just maybe not the kind they were hoping for. One of the explorers made a shocking discovery. He found a bathtub full of human, or at least human-looking, brains. Wait, what? See, told you, nightmares. They seemed to be drowned in formalin and had the same basic architecture as the average human brain. The question remains, how did this disgusting sight ever come to exist? Some have speculated that the hospital staff might have needed to store human brains somewhere, but why a bathtub? Others have theorized that it might just be a hoax, or that it might be that animal brains have been put there in some kind of experimental or even artistic endeavor. Number 1. A shark left abandoned in a wildlife park. One day in 1998, a shark was caught in a fishing net meant for tuna by the Lucan family. The family humanely killed the shark, that was later named Rosie, and was put in a tank filled with formaldehyde in a wonderland in Bass, Australia. As Rosie was being transferred, the truck she was in was impounded by the government. A woman was reported missing, and Rosie was a suspect. An autopsy was called for, and when the shark's name was cleared, the creature was preserved to put on display in museums and wildlife centers. A 28-minute-long video of the animal in formaldehyde was put on YouTube by a user named Luke McPherson, who went on to explore the mysteries that were surrounding this park in 2018 and the infamous formaldehyde shark. Rosie the shark had been there since 2012, when the park was closed due to animal welfare concerns and operating without the appropriate license. This discovery shook the web and left it, as usual, with more questions than answers. Why was Rosie just left there? Why was she never transferred to another park? Thanks for watching. What do you think of these creepy discoveries in abandoned buildings? Have you ever found something that should be on a list like this? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!